his face, 'cause Dallas Cowboys football is his happy place.
This is the One Star Cowboys podcast. This is our end of the week wrap-up show. Try and give you guys everything that maybe we didn't touch on in our previous show and kind of update you on the latest things at the end of the week. Usually these shows will be around 10, 15 minutes. And so we'll get you started with, obviously, the biggest thing, injury updates. No surprise here. The injury report came out, and there's not going to be any Micah Parsons, no DeMarcus Lawrence. He's on injured reserve. And then also, obviously, no Brandon Cooks for this game Sunday night at Pittsburgh. The other guys that are on the list of note, next up would be Trayvon Diggs. He had an ankle injury that he suffered in practice on Thursday. Sounds like they were a little scared about it at first, but it doesn't sound like it's anything that will keep him out of the game on Sunday. He was limited on Thursday. They decided to keep him out of practice altogether on Friday. So it sounds like he'll be a go, which is really important considering how thin they are at corner. And that brings me to the next player, Kalen Carson, dealing with a shoulder injury. He's limited, has been in practice this week, limited. He's listed as questionable for Friday's game or Sunday's game, and that one I think is a little bit more up in the air. That might be more of a game time decision than Diggs. And so if you don't have Carson, I guess you could go with Andrew Booth like he did last week, but I'm thinking maybe they lean a little bit more to Amani Oruwariye, who played in the second half when they took Booth out in New York. I think that would kind of be where you go with him as the other outside corner, with Diggs on the other side, and Jordan Lewis as your nickel. As far as some of the other players that showed up on the injury list, Ezekiel Elliott, Ryan Flournoy, both dealing with dehydration on Thursday. It was pretty hot in Dallas. I think it was in the 90s, and from what Mike McCarthy said, it was a pretty good practice. They got after it pretty good, and nothing that'll keep either of those guys out of the game. Also, Tyler Guyton had a shoulder issue, but he's full go as well. So nothing else there. It kind of goes back to the main point of just they're in a tough spot because they're not going to have Micah. They're not going to have DeMarcus Lawrence. You're not going to have Brandon Cooks. And so there's other guys that are just going to have to step up, and that's easier said than done. Now, of course, every team's dealing with injuries right now. Pittsburgh's no different. They have their share of setbacks, and it's not like they're 100% either, but just kind of where this Cowboys season has gone, being 2-2, how badly they need this win with their next game being against Detroit. Then they have the bye, and then the game after that is against the 49ers. And as things sit right now, I don't think you're going to see Micah Parsons or Brandon Cooks against the Lions next week either. I think they're going to give them the bye week as well, with the hopes of having Parsons and Cooks come back for that Niners game. DeMarcus Lawrence being on the IR, he's got to miss 4 games. That's not a huge surprise. He was going to miss more time than those other two guys anyway, but just kind of where things are at, I think for the most part, what roster you see out there Sunday night, barring any other injuries, that's probably what you're going to see against the Lions the following weekend as well. So another topic that is very popular with fans that the Cowboys continue to get asked about, and there just haven't been really any great answers, is Dalvin Cook and what's going on with Dalvin Cook and when is he going to be active. This does not sound like this is going to be the week that he's going to be active. It appears, though, he's headed in the right direction of potentially playing in the near future, because Mike McCarthy said he did get reps, with the first team in practice, but they're just kind of not there yet because, and I know fans are not going to love hearing this, but McCarthy doesn't think that Rico Dowdle or Ezekiel Elliott have done anything to get snaps taken away from them, so he doesn't see the sense in bringing up Dalvin to take away carries from Rico or Zeke. I think there's a lot of people that have probably want to see something else at running back, but the Cowboys appear to not be at that spot yet, and so maybe against Detroit, and if not there, maybe then you have to wait till after the bye against San Francisco. But in terms of how Dalvin has looked when we've been at practice and what we've heard from people that see practice when we're not there or when we're not allowed to be there, I mean, everything looks on track for Dalvin to play. Looks like he's ready. It's not like he's dealing with some type of an injury or anything like that. In terms of knowing the playbook, Mike McCarthy said he's got that stuff down, because that was kind of a talking point the first few weeks after he joined the team, but that's all down. So it's really just comes down to Mike McCarthy would prefer to give the carries right now to Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott. Another one, since I'm on a roll here of making you guys unhappy, I'll just give you Stephen Jones was asked Thursday on ESPN San Antonio, he does a weekly interview there, about having any interest in Raiders wide receiver Davante Adams. Stephen said, no, I don't think there's anything to that. We just signed our number one guy, which obviously he's referring to CeeDee Lamb. And Adams is a number one receiver. So when you have a challenge cap-wise that we have, that would be a long putt for us. So I know you guys have probably seen out there that they've been reported as one of the teams interested, having made a call, to the Raiders to see, what it would take to get Adams. But Stephen Jones says that there's no real interest there. So I know that's going to make a lot of you very happy because I just can tell from the comments under tweets about Davante Adams that some fans would like to see them make a move, especially considering that the news have come out recently with Brandon Cooks and the issue with his knee and the injection he got. Now that he had an infection, it's probably going to keep him out a few weeks. And let's be honest, the passing game really hasn't been as great as maybe you were hoping. And why wouldn't you want to add Davante Adams? The big issue there is Davante Adams still has 2 years left on his deal after this. And the Cowboys really aren't that interested in adding anybody with deals that go beyond this season. So doesn't look like Davante Adams is very likely at all to end up being a Dallas Cowboy. So sorry to bring you that news, but I thought it was of note. Let's see. The biggest emphasis, I would say, for the Cowboys offense, because I do think that the Cowboys offense is going to have to be outstanding to beat the Steelers Sunday night. But one of the big emphasis they're going to have going into this game is breaking tackles. They don't feel like they've done that well enough up to this point. And to beat this Steelers team, I think that's an area where they're really focused on having to. It's not just the yards after the catch, it's yards after that first contact. They need to get better in that area. And so you're going to have some younger receivers have to step up. Jaylen Brown, Jalen Tolbert. It looks like Ryan Flanoy is going to be active for this game. He's got a pretty good size, physical receiver. Maybe that's where he shows up here. Maybe can break some tackles on some passes. That's an area to look at because, frankly, for me, I just don't see the Cowboys winning this game unless Dak in the passing game put up some decent numbers. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball well against the Steelers, and I think the Steelers are going to be pretty solid on offense. I think the Steelers will be able to run the ball on offense, so how do you beat a team that I think is going to be pretty solid at home? You need your best players to be at their best, and you don't have Micah, you don't have Tank, you need Dak, you need CD, you need them to play at a high level. And I said a lot of the similar things going in the Giants game, and I feel the same way with this one. That's why they're the high-paid guys. They have to produce at a high level. They have to carry the team, especially right now with the defense missing Bland, Tank, Parsons. The offense has to step up, and I just hard for me to watch those first 4 weeks and think all of a sudden the running game's going to click. So if that's not there either, the only thing you're left with is the passing game because when I look at the weather report for Sunday night, it looks like there's going to be some rain, could be windy there. So that could neutralize you having Brandon Aubrey as a huge weapon in this game. So, that obviously isn't great for the passing game either. But I still think that there can be enough plays out there for Dak and CD to kind of make a difference in this game. So that'll definitely be, I think, the X factor of if they can win this game or not. Dak was asked on Thursday how he felt like he was playing. He said he called it solid. He was asked about if he was like playing his best ball. I thought he's been solid up to this point through 4 games, and I would agree with him. I mean, I don't think he's at the level that he was last year when he did get runner-up MVP, but there's some room for growth there. There have been parts of games this year where I thought he was at his absolute best, and we saw some of that Thursday night against the Giants. They need that even more now in this Steelers game to have a chance, and so he thinks that he's on the brink of it. He said, and he said I think it was his quote was that it's damn sure coming. That he feels like he's getting closer and closer to playing at his very best, and obviously that's going to only happen if CeeDee Lamb is playing well too, and as you guys are probably well aware of, while there have been some good performances by CD, there hasn't been any full games. It's usually been some drop-off in the second half where he isn't utilized as much, and I think I don't think you beat Pittsburgh without CD, Dak having a big game all throughout all 4 quarters. So I'm trying to think what else we got here. I noticed when I've been tweeting out the inactives, whatever it is, 90 minutes before the games, fans have been pretty annoyed by some of the players that have been on there, one being rookie receiver Ryan Flanoy, who I mentioned earlier. Sounds like he's finally going to get a chance, and so I know that a lot of you will be excited about that to see what he can do. He did have some flashes in training camp, and he certainly did again in the preseason. So that could be a player to watch in this game. That could be somebody that, hey, maybe you get a spark from him. He does some things that, hey, you know what? Maybe they're in a better shape at wide receiver than we had originally thought. I'm a little bit hesitant to go down that path because I feel like if they thought he was ready to be on that level, they would have had him active in one of these games. And so going into this one, I'm very intrigued to see which wide receivers step up. Who steps up in the absence of Brandon Cooks? You know, how does Jake Ferguson play? I imagine Dak will be targeting him a lot as well. So, and then, you know, the big one really is TJ Watt. And how does a young Tyler Guyton hold up against arguably the best pass rusher in the game? I know there's an emphasis this week on having to get low, and that's tough for a guy as big as Tyler Guyton. I mean, he certainly, when he's out in the field, he looks like a basketball player. He's a tall guy, and so they've been really emphasizing this week him having to get low, and just with the style that the Steelers play in. So it'll be one to watch because he's obviously had more than his share of penalties lately, and that's going to be a key matchup in this game. I think if he's having his struggles, what it leads to is just you're going to see Dak getting the ball out quicker. I mean, your hand's going to be forced. You can't sit back there and wait for things to develop when you got TJ Watt coming at you. So those are just a couple things I'm watching, a couple of updates I wanted to give you guys. So any time that they have, you know, a Sunday game, I'm trying to come with some type of a Friday podcast at, like I said, 10, 15 minutes, just update you guys with the latest stuff because there is a decent amount that comes out on Fridays. And so just want to bring you guys the latest. Appreciate you guys for listening, and keep checking back with us. We appreciate all you guys.
John's weekly recap, it's all the rage. He laughs and he hollers, takes center stage. Win or lose, he's got a grin on his face, 'cause Dallas Cowboys football is his happy place.
This defense is awesome.
Hey, Ron, but it starts with 11. You don't have to know anything about football, and this guy leaps off the tape. You know why? Because he plays with Ha. You know what Ha is? Hobby the Ha. You know what Ha is? Hobby the Ha. Because he plays with Ha. You know what Ha is? Hobby the Ha. Because he plays with Ha.